Speak roughly to your little boy and beat him when he sneezes. He only does it to annoy because he knows it teases.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Wonderland Wednesday. Today we're going to be talking about the 1983 PBS Great Performances version of Alice in Wonderland. This one is not so much a movie as it is a television recording of a stage play. They filmed it sort of like a movie, but you can tell it was supposed to be a stage play. There was very minimal special effects put in, and the emphasis was on the costumes. But it was interesting for what it was, and actually it was better than I thought it was going to be.
Really?
I was kind of expecting the worst because it's the 80s and I don't know. I kind of thought it was going to be terrible, but it wasn't. I wouldn't say it's one of my favorites. There was a couple things I thought was weird, but all in all, especially at least for the costumes, I really liked it.
He said that he was having an easier time forgiving it for cutting things out because of the limitations of the stage play, and you just have to keep that in mind as you're watching it. If you're a major fan and you're noticing all the things that aren't there, they do have a lot of dialogue from the story, though. It starts out kind of odd because you can tell that they're supposed to be starting this play and they're discussing how the person playing Alice just maybe isn't ready, maybe isn't good enough, and you go back to her dressing room and she's trying to get ready, work on her lines, and you didn't know this, but Alice is actually a smoker and a brunette and maybe 35. I don't know.
I think she was probably more like in her late 20s, and she just had a deeper voice because of the smoking.
They transition from her dressing room into Wonderland. But when she is in Wonderland, the costuming is like that of the book, like you would expect, with the pinafore and the blonde hair, and it changes her appearance so much that she doesn't look so grown up, and the cigarette is gone, thankfully.
Yeah, she never is smoking while she's in Wonderland.
Right. One of the things that was kind of neat was that the background artwork looked like ink drawing, and a lot of the costuming looked like it was done in pen and ink.
Yeah, they kind of looked like they painted the edges of all the costumes, and it gave it like an illustrated feel, even though it was obviously costumes and three-dimensional. But
like they were literally trying to make the book come to life, and I can appreciate that. They had a variety of styles of music and dancing around, which
some of which were better than others.
It wasn't cohesive.
No.
And it wasn't period correct. A fair amount of it. I mean...
And a lot of times I was thinking, I want to get on to the next scene. The songs were, I don't know, like kind of annoying to a little bit.
And sprinkled throughout all of this are a lot of recognizable people. Not necessarily all of them huge names, but you just may have seen them in something else. Like the Cheshire Cat. I remember him from the old version of Annie. He was a weird character, though. I really liked him as a person, but I didn't really like what they were doing with the Cheshire Cat. That little walk that he did was kind of...
For me, the claws were the worst part.
But a 6'6" guy from Trinidad with an incredibly rich bass voice, yes, great, but what you did with the character was a little weird. You were cool, though.
The Mad Hatter was one of the strangest choices, at least for me, because for some reason they decided to portray him as perpetually angry. Like, this was the angriest Mad Hatter we've ever seen.
It was like
he's literally a Mad Hatter, not in that he's crazy,
yeah,
but he's just mad about something.
Is he going into withdrawal from the hat-making fumes? What's happening here? He was pretty agitated, and I don't know how all that works with Mad Hatters. One of the things that was interesting was during the courtroom scene when he bites his teacup, it really looks like he's eating like a powdered sugar cookie or something. I'm wondering what they made that out of. And then it was cute because one of the cards in the background is like, oh, this dude's eating his cup.
Which is probably would have been a natural reaction.
Yeah, but you don't expect it in Wonderland. You don't expect natural.
Yeah.
The water rat was
Nathan Lane.
And Kay Ballard was the Duchess, and Donald O'Connor was the Mock Turtle. Eve Arden was the Queen of Hearts.
The Red Queen we recognized as, I can't think of her name, she played Marilla on Anne of Green Gables.
Colleen Dewhurst.
Yes, that's right.
And yeah, she is forever Marilla. And she was really good. It was also really strange for me seeing Donald O'Connor around 30 years after Singing in the Rain, when that's the image that I have burned into my memory. And when they come along to the Mock Turtle, it sounds kind of like Bing Crosby's portraying the Mock Turtle. So that was one of the styles that they included, was sort of a 1930s, 40s style of singing, along with tango, along with ballet sort of sounding music, and yeah, not very...
Yeah, the music was just all over the place.
Whatever they felt like for the particular character. The way they delivered their lines was quite, maybe enunciated is the word. I think so that they could be heard as a stage play. So I think you need to be kind of forgiving as you listen to them, because it doesn't always sound as natural as movie dialogue.
And now that you're mentioning that, I think that's what I was trying to figure out. I was hearing something in the way they were talking that just didn't seem...
quite right.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. I think they were just over-enunciating, and it's probably because it was a stage play.
Just overacting just a little bit, so it seems a little bit fake, but if you were in an audience trying to hear what they're saying, it would make more sense.
Yeah.
They had a weird thing going on with the Queen, because it was almost like they implied that she and the knave had something going on, but they never said it. And you have to realize that Eve, when she played this part, was an elderly woman, a nice-looking elderly woman, but the guy who played the knave looked like a 20-something college student with heavy makeup. Very handsome, and should not have anything to do with an elderly woman. Yeah, There was nothing said in the dialogue. It was just the looks they kept giving each other, and he kissed her hand at one point. Just the way. I mean, it was just kind of.
It was just strange.
And it was like they were having a hidden conversation during the court scene where they were happy with each other, and then she was upset, and he's like, "What's going on? She's not happy with me anymore." But they never tell you what's actually going on. So that was weird.
And then she just sentences him to beheading,
But it was like he was supposed to be beheaded, but during the trial it was like they were still into each other, and then it was like evidence was coming out that was exposing what was happening, and then she was upset and like, abort, and he's like, what, you're not happy with me anymore?
That's just really strange.
That's the way my mind was kind of interpreting it.
Yeah.
But he doesn't die. He's in the end scene of Through the Looking Glass at the party.
The queens were probably some of our favorites, at least from the second half.
Yes.
We really liked the red and white queens. They were great.
Eve Arden was fine as the queen. I thought their twist on her character was kind of weird. But as far as the red and white queen, I really, really liked both of them. Colleen Dewhurst Marilla. She just has this really dramatic, slightly hot-tempered presence that she can portray really, really well. But she's not a mean character in here. She's just very...
She's like serious, but also like slightly crazy.
And silly, but not necessarily meaning to be, like Wonderland should be.
Yeah.
And that's one of the special things about this production, if you want to call it special, but I guess it is kind of special, that since they couldn't do as much with some of the other things, they did include some of the fun dialogue that might get blurred in other versions. So that was really good. That's one of the biggest things that makes Wonderland special, is all the silly little conversations that go on and thinking of things in a different way from what they actually are. One word meaning one thing in real life, but it could be confusing if you thought of it this way. And the White Queen was a doll. I mean, if she was your grandmother, you would just love her. She'd be the one standing there with cookies and hugs. She just had this lovely voice and just this sweet appearance.
And she also didn't turn into a sheep, which I sort of appreciated, because we had just finished watching a very
creepy
horrible
sheep
version of the sheep. So I was glad to have a break from the sheep for a while.
I feel like if they had tried, they could have made her a really cute sheep, but that could have also gone wrong too. Either way, she was adorable and sweet just the way she was. I mean, she left me feeling like, man, if I'm like that when I'm elderly, that's pretty good. Just be a cute, sweet little old lady. And I mean, I don't know. I just want to stress just how sweet this version was. She's probably the sweetest White Queen I've ever seen. The way she delivered her lines. And what was she saying in the one part? Do you know, they're in the part where they're quizzing her. They want to know, or I think the Red Queen wants to know, does she know her ABCs? And yes, she does. And the White Queen's like, yes, I do too. We'll say them together often. And you want to know something else? I can read words of one letter. Oh, don't be discouraged. You'll come to it in time. And it was so cute.
It was like so ridiculous, but so sweet at the same time. We wound and watched it twice because we just really loved the delivery of her lines there.
Another interesting tidbit is that the lady who played Alice, her father played the White Knight.
I would say he's one of the better White Knights that we've seen. A lot of times I tend to get very bored in that scene.
There's so much dialogue that if you're reading it, it's okay, but when it's acted out, it can be slow. And I thought it was just interesting to know that was her father, and they're sharing that experience together, and he had a great accent. They do have the end party, which certainly wasn't as weird as the last one we just watched, thankfully. You have a lot of the characters that were already sprinkled throughout both halves of the story, filling out the banquet hall. And in that sense, it wasn't really as true to the book, but I don't blame them for just lumping everybody in there. It was good to see that the knave was all right, or just to see the knave. I don't know. I don't know what I was thinking there. It's like, oh, the knave. Great.
He's not dead.
I don't know what else was going through my mind there. They kept this fairly succinct because they want her to make a speech, and then they're pressuring her to hurry up, and then it's like she's getting overwhelmed.
It sort of transitioned back into the real world, similarly to the end of the book, except there was no kitten involved, because it just sort of transitioned from her grabbing the Red Queen to the picture from the book of the Red Queen tiny in her hands, and then she's back in her dressing room.
And then it's time for the play to start.
Except the play, from what we see, the play mainly consists of her sitting in a giant oversized armchair reciting Jabberwocky.
I feel like that's just the way it was supposed to start. You see her in this great big, looks like a red velvet chair, reciting the Jabberwocky, and then
that's it.
It's over.
I think the main thing that I took away from this was, now I really want to see Alice in Wonderland as a play in real life. And I would like to see somebody do it better than they did it here. I mean, they did it well, but we were talking while we were watching. We noticed that the biggest things that were getting cut out of this version was when there would be something like really fantastical happening. And I know with different, I don't know, play improvements, technology-wise, they could probably pull something off really well. Anyways, we really liked this version, and I think the main thing...
moderately liked.
We really liked aspects of this version.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, it wasn't perfect, but it was definitely worth watching for an Alice fan. I don't know how the general public might feel about it, but for an Alice fan, I think this one is worth watching. Anyways, I think that's going to be all for this episode. As usual, we're not sure exactly what we'll be doing next week. I think I'm probably just going to be doing something myself, but whatever happens, we'll see you then.
All right, bye.